Welcome to your weekly Leadership Principle by Coach AJ and the mentor team at Martin County PAL. In Martin County PAL, our goal is not discipline, it is growth. We meet youth where they are and help them develop into healthy, productive leaders for the future. This week, the conversation focused on choices. And honestly, if you ask a room full of teenagers who is actually driving the car of their life, it's kind of terrifying.
It really is.
Because almost all of them will tell you they are currently, locked in the trunk.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we witnessed firsthand. I mean, sitting in that room, you could literally feel the atmosphere shift.
Oh, completely.
Right, because at the beginning of the session, the energy was just that standard mix of, restless shifting and side conversations, that guarded body language they all have.
Standard teenager stuff.
Exactly. But Coach AJ, he did not ease into the material at all. He started by setting this really firm baseline of respect, like phones away, earbuds out. He demanded their presence, and then he just drops this massive, heavy question right into the middle of the room.
Right, the scale question.
Yeah, he looked at these future leaders and asked them to rate themselves on a scale of 1 to 10 on how much control they actually have over their own choices.
And a question like that, it instantly forces a mental inventory. I was watching their faces, and you could see their eyes darting around. They were really processing what he was asking.
They definitely were.
Because the assumption is that teenagers, who notoriously want to rebel and claim independence, they'd boastfully say, oh, I am an 8 or a 9. But that's not what happened.
No, not at all. The overwhelming majority of the youth in that room gave themselves a 5.
A 5.
Right. It was just this completely neutral, middle-of-the-road answer.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second. Because it is incredibly easy for anyone, not just a teenager, but anyone, to play the blame card.
Oh, for sure.
When life is restrictive, human nature dictates that we point outward. We say, I can't succeed because the system won't let me, or I have no choices because my parents are way too strict.
Yeah, that external locus of control. And digging into the psychology behind that 5 is where the deep dive of the session got really revealing.
Right.
Because when Coach AJ started pulling on that thread, asking them to justify that number, they articulated very clearly that they felt held back, by strict household rules, demands of their parents, or just the weight of past mistakes that had literally stripped away their privileges.
They felt like the reins of their lives were being held by someone else entirely.
Exactly. A parent, a teacher, a probation officer. But what stood out was how Coach AJ navigated that collective grievance.
He didn't coddle them at all.
No, but he didn't dismiss their feelings either, which is key. He validated the underlying truth, which is that life just doesn't start equally for everyone.
Right, and that is a harsh, undeniable reality. Like some of those youth in the room are starting miles behind the starting line because of really complex family dynamics or economic struggles.
Environments that are just fraught with instability. And if Coach AJ or the mentors dismissed those very real barriers, they would have instantly lost their trust.
Which brings us to, honestly, the moment in the session that completely altered the trajectory of the room. Because anyone who spends time around youth knows how hard it is to get a room full of teenagers completely, absolutely silent.
Oh, it requires a level of authenticity that you just cannot fake.
No, you can't. And when Coach Bob stepped into the center of the room to share his story, the silence was palpable. You could hear a pin drop.
Yeah.
He didn't deliver this polished lecture from, a pedestal of authority. He got really raw.
He detailed exactly what it was like growing up in poverty with an alcoholic father.
Yeah, he painted this incredibly vivid, painful picture of waking up on Christmas morning. He looked around at a single pair of socks he had received, and he wondered with this deep bitterness why all the other kids at school were getting mini bikes.
The physical reaction from the youth when he talked about the socks versus the mini bikes, it was profound. I mean, shoulders dropped, postures completely changed.
Because several of those future leaders are living that exact reality right now.
Exactly. They know the sting of that disparity. And by sharing that vulnerability, Coach Bob just dismantled all the defensive walls in the room. He showed them, I'm not just a guy spouting theory. I walked through the exact same fire you're in right now.
But the turning point of his story wasn't the trauma itself. It was the realization he had as a teenager, right around their current age. He shared the exact moment it clicked for him.
Right, that he couldn't cure his father's addiction.
Yeah. He had absolutely zero control over the chaos erupting in his household. But he had 100% control over his own response to that chaos.
Yeah, which is such a powerful shift.
It is. He made a definitive choice to forge a totally different path. He told them point blank that if he took them back to his hometown today, the people there wouldn't even believe he came from that environment.
Because his subsequent choices engineered an entirely different reality.
Right.
And that concept that you can't control your environment, but you have absolute authority over your response, that became the foundation for what Coach AJ introduced next.
A mirror thing.
Yeah, he framed the core lesson around ownership through what he called the mirror exercise.
Okay, wait. I have to push back on this a little bit.
Go for it.
Because I was watching the faces of these youth when he introduced this.
Yeah.
He tells a group of tough, cynical teenagers to go home, lock themselves in a bathroom, look themselves dead in the eye in the mirror, and declare out loud, "I am in control."
Yeah.
Aren't they just going to immediately roll their eyes? Like, how do you push past that thick adolescent wall of, this is incredibly cringe and I'm not doing it?
Well, that is the exact friction Coach AJ anticipated, right?
Yeah.
He addressed the awkwardness right away. He told them, look, the first 20 times you do this, you are going to feel ridiculous.
Yeah, you're not going to believe a word you're saying.
Exactly. But the mechanism behind the mirror exercise isn't about instant belief. It's about forcing cognitive dissonance.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, because when a teenager is trapped in that external locus of control, their internal monologue is just a constant loop of excuses. So by forcing them to physically speak the words, "I am in control," into their own reflection, it disrupts that loop. Verbalizing agency forces the brain to start reconciling their actions with that statement.
Wow. It effectively burns the boats.
Yes.
Like, if you commit to looking in the mirror and claiming ownership, the luxury of blaming your circumstances just evaporates. You can't blame the teacher who supposedly has it out for you anymore. You become the architect of your next move.
But taking that level of ownership is deeply terrifying.
Because it means when you inevitably fail tomorrow, it is entirely your fault.
Right. And that kind of pressure can be paralyzing for an adult, let alone a teenager.
So how did the mentor team prevent this new burden of accountability from just crushing them?
By entirely reframing the concept of failure. Immediately after laying down that heavy mantle of ownership, Coach AJ shocked the room again. He told them to look at the situation honestly and acknowledge that they are absolutely going to continue making bad choices.
Yeah, the collective double take in the room was incredible. Because usually you expect a leadership program to demand strict adherence to perfection.
Yeah.
But he just put their humanity right out on the table.
Exactly. He acknowledged that their brains are still developing, their impulses are strong, and they are going to mess up.
Which perfectly set up the most illuminating analogy of the session, the GPS analogy.
Oh, I love this part.
Right. The mentor team asked the youth to visualize driving a car. And when you take a wrong turn or miss an exit, your navigation system doesn't suddenly shut down.
No, it doesn't scream at you.
It doesn't label you a failure or call you stupid.
It just assesses the new location and says, recalculate.
It is completely devoid of shame.
And the absence of shame is the crucial element here. When we fail, human nature naturally spirals into a shame cycle. We equate making a bad choice with being a bad person.
Right.
But the GPS analogy strips the emotion out of the failure. The mentors explained that the secret to becoming a successful leader isn't living a mistake-free existence. That's biologically impossible.
The actual secret is ensuring you only make a specific mistake one single time.
Yes.
You make a poor choice, you absorb the natural consequence, you recalculate your route, and you ensure you don't take that exact same wrong turn again. And the mentor team made sure this wasn't just a philosophical debate either.
No, they grounded it in reality.
Right. Literal life or death choices happening on the streets of our community right now. They brought up the physical dangers of youth doing wheelies on bicycles, swerving in and out of oncoming traffic.
Yeah, by prioritizing a temporary dopamine hit for social media over the existential threat of a distracted driver.
They laid it out so clearly. The adrenaline rush is a choice, but the consequence of a 2-ton vehicle is a reality you cannot recalculate from.
And they also tackled the pervasive issue of vaping.
Oh, yeah. That was powerful.
Coach AJ spoke really candidly about the neurochemistry of addiction, how vaping sinks its hooks into the brain and creates this frantic physiological need.
But it wasn't a preachy anti-drug lecture at all.
No, it was an analysis of choices. He pointed out that while they might have made the initial choice to start, maybe out of curiosity or peer pressure, they still retain the power to recalculate.
Yeah, choosing the difficult path of breaking that physical habit is an exercise in reclaiming the control they rated as a 5. It all comes down to behavioral trajectory, which ties into the final insight of the session. the behavioral contagion of our
It's
choices.
the pond analogy.
Yes, Coach AJ painted this visual of standing at the edge of a perfectly calm pond and throwing a heavy rock straight into the center.
And the impact creates one singular, small circle. But the nature of water dictates that the circle cannot remain contained. It pushes outward, creating a second ring, then a third, expanding relentlessly.
Until it alters the water all the way to the shoreline.
Exactly. And Coach AJ used this to explain family systems and community impact. He told these future leaders that if they commit to the grueling work of changing their own choices, those behavioral ripples will not stop with them.
The changes in their posture, their respect, and their decision-making will inevitably crash into their younger siblings who are watching their every move. It'll force their peer groups to either elevate their own behavior or step aside.
It's the ultimate antidote to feeling powerless.
Right. You don't have to carry the burden of changing your entire neighborhood today. You just have to drop the rock in the water by taking control of your own reflection.
Now, taking this entire experience and shifting our focus to the listeners, the parents and guardians tuning in, we really have to examine what this means for the ecosystem of the home.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
It does. Because when we know that our youth are sitting in a room, honestly assessing their autonomy and feeling like they only operate at a level 5 out of 10, it exposes a massive tension in modern parenting.
Oh, completely.
On one side, our deepest, most primal instinct is to protect our kids from the very real dangers we just discussed. We want to shield them from permanent mistakes.
Of course.
But on the other side of the spectrum, if we construct a padded room around them where they have zero agency, how do they ever develop the cognitive muscles required to make independent choices?
Okay, wait. Let's pause here and get into the reality of that. Because this is where the advice gets agonizingly difficult for a parent to actually execute.
It's so hard.
Letting a teenager face the natural consequence of forgetting a homework assignment is one thing.
Yeah.
That's low stakes. But when a parent sees their kid heading toward a metaphorical cliff-like hanging out with a genuinely dangerous crowd, our biological instinct is to jump in and grab the steering wheel violently.
Right.
So where is the actual line between letting them learn to recalculate and negligently letting them crash the car?
That is the hardest tightrope a parent has to walk. The distinction lies between intervening to prevent life-altering permanent damage versus swooping in to eliminate temporary discomfort.
And we often conflate the two.
Yes, we do. When we constantly hover, heavily micromanaging their social calendars or rushing in to smooth over their conflicts before they even feel the friction, we are actually just self-soothing our own anxiety.
Wow.
We aren't helping them. If we are always the ones acting as the external GPS, loudly shouting, recalculate, and grabbing the wheel at the first sign of a detour, they will never develop their own internal navigation system.
Which completely flips the traditional parenting model on its head. It means that true growth, the exact type of growth Coach AJ and the mentors are demanding from these youth at PL, requires us, the adults, to tolerate our own discomfort.
Yes.
We have to purposefully step back and let these youth endure the sting of natural consequences. They need to feel the embarrassment of a lost privilege or the frustration of being grounded because they broke a household rule.
And part of stepping back to let them grow involves evaluating how we interact with them when they do try to engage with us.
Right.
This brings up a deeply resonant point Coach Bob made in the room regarding how we silently communicate value.
The phone demonstration.
Yeah. He performed this physical demonstration that every adult needs to confront. He explained that if a youth is trying to share something important with you, and you are holding a smartphone in your hand, even if you are making eye contact, you are broadcasting a silent, undeniable message.
You're telling them that whoever or whatever is on that screen is the primary focus.
Exactly. And that an incoming notification has the power to interrupt and override their voice at any given second.
Sitting in the room watching him demonstrate, that was an absolute gut punch.
It really was.
Because it is devastatingly true. We constantly lecture teenagers about their screen time, yet we are actively modeling the exact distraction we complain about. Like, how often do we, as parents, break eye contact with our child who's trying to tell us about their day, just to glance down at a glowing screen because an email chimed?
The youth are analyzing our choices just as intensely as we analyze theirs.
They absolutely are.
Which is exactly why we need to move this conversation from theoretical observation into practical reality. We want to equip you with 2 highly specific, actionable steps you can implement this week at home. The first is a habit to model, which we are calling the phone rule.
And the mechanics of this are so simple, yet it requires massive discipline.
It does. When your child initiates a conversation with you this week, the rule requires you to physically remove the digital barrier. Don't just lock the screen. Physically put the phone down on a table out of reach, slide it into your pocket, or turn it face down on the counter.
Shift your entire body language toward them.
Yes. Make deliberate eye contact. And furthermore, before you offer advice, repeat back a small piece of what they just said to prove you were actively listening. Show them through undeniable physical actions that in that exact moment, they are the single most important entity in your world.
As Coach Bob instructed the youth, to make a friend, you have to be a friend.
Right, and that exact same principle dictates how we build foundational trust with our children.
That physical act of putting the phone down changes the entire barometric pressure of the room. It signals safety and respect. Now, the second action shifts from a model habit to a specific communication tool.
Yes, we're calling the second action the recalculation. We have already established that your child is going to make a mistake. It is an absolute certainty.
A biological fact.
Exactly. So this week, when they inevitably make a poor choice, when they lash out in anger, neglect a chore, or break curfew, your instinct will be to instantly launch into a detailed lecture about responsibility. You must resist that urge.
Because the lecture just causes them to mentally check out and revert back to feeling like a victim.
Instead of lecturing, take a physical breath to regulate your own frustration. Then, ask them a guiding question designed to activate their internal GPS. Ask them calmly, what do you think the natural consequence of doing that again would be? How can we recalculate our route here?
I love that. That specific phrasing completely neutralizes the dynamic. Instead of you playing the role of the warden, handing down a sentence, you instantly become the co-pilot, helping them read the map of their own life.
Yeah, it changes everything.
Because if these future leaders are spending their time and energy at PL learning how to take the wheel and drive themselves toward a productive future, we, as parents, must be willing to occasionally sit quietly in the passenger seat.
We have to.
We have to let them practice navigating, even if it means watching them endure a bumpy road to figure out how the vehicle handles.
It is the only way they learn to drive.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive into what happened in the room this week, I want to leave you with one final, deeply provocative thought to mull over. We have spent a lot of time discussing the youth looking into a mirror to take ownership of their choices and eliminate excuses. But turn that concept around. If your child were to hold up a mirror to your daily choices, how you handle unforeseen stress, how you speak about your neighbors, how you manage your own digital distractions, would they see the exact type of resilient, focused leader you are demanding they become?
Thank you for taking a few minutes to invest in your child's growth. If this message resonated with you, I encourage you to subscribe to our channel, like or comment on this episode, and share it with other parents who care about raising strong, capable young leaders. If you'd like to learn more about Martin County PAL or are interested in supporting or partnering with our program, please reach out. This work only happens because of people who believe in meeting youth where they are and helping them grow into who they can become. We appreciate you being part of that mission.